Those things did not satisfy me the way I thought they should. And all the hard work that I put into didn't give me that gratification I was looking for. I realized I kept looking for things that was outside of myself. I had my dream house, I got my dream car. I just got the title International Fashion Designer. Everything I had been working towards. I realized that I did not feel satisfied. So I began to shed a lot of the materialistic viewpoints that I had. All I really want is a peace of mind. All I really want to be to wake up happy next to someone that we may get into an argument tomorrow, but the next day we're loving each other and we're right back in that spot. Having my kids happy and thriving and not worrying about essentials. When you have your character built to a certain level to sustain the type of life you want, life feels easy. But when you don't, life feels hard and you're in constant survival. We know who we are. We just got to get rid of all the voices and the noise and everything that other people have tried to tell us about ourselves, because it's not true.
Welcome to the Let's Thrive Together podcast, where we are sharing real stories of real leaders thriving not only in their career in business, but also in your life. I'm your host, Brittany N, keynote speaker, author of Thrive Through It, and the CEO of Career Thrivers, where we work with executives and organizations to build bold leaders and resilient teams. Quick question. Do you know the difference between a personal brand and a leadership brand? Most people don't, and it actually matters. Now, your personal brand is what people think about you. Your leadership brand, though, that's about the impact that you create. It's how you lead, it's how you think, it's your philosophy, the change that you're making visible in the world. I have a gift for you, because each week I teach an absolutely free class called the Leadership Brand Class, where I walk you through our leadership brand methodology. We help you close the gap between the impact that you are already making in your career and your business and how visible that impact actually is. Because here's the truth. Visibility without substance is just noise. But impact without visibility, that's a missed opportunity. And most leaders that we work with are on the wrong side of that equation. So join me at leadershipbrandclass.com. It's free, it's every week, and it will change how you think about your leadership and how others think about you, so that you're compensated for the impact that you actually create. Welcome back to another episode, another leadership lesson from an incredible woman that we are going to get to hear from about all things. How do you bring your personal style into your leadership and how you show up? So welcome to the show, Zin.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
It's great being here. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So I want to learn a little bit about your story and what life was like for you growing up. So take us through that first time that you can remember when someone asked you to lead, or whether you maybe even volunteered to lead.
Well, my father asked me to lead at a pretty young age. He was an evangelist, so I would sing solos for him before he preached at his different locations. So I remember being around 7, 8, going to these events, sometimes 7, 8 o'clock at night, waking up and just knowing the only reason why I'm there is because I'm gonna get a Happy Meal when I leave. So I had an incentive, but that's why first, kind of forced into leadership. But then I started a community dance group because I was self-taught to dance, and I actually made it on a dance team. And in my area, it was a predominantly white school. And so there had normally been 2 or 3 out of 27 girls. And so that year that I kind of taught myself, I started, there were 4 to 5 girls, and I consistently remained on the team. And so some people looked up to that, and we actually me and a friend created a community dance team for Martin Luther King's Day. And so it was about 12 girls from different schools in different areas. And we had uniforms, we marched in the parade, we made it on the news. And so that was kind of my beginning of creating some type of tribe.
I love that. Okay. Church girl, dance girl. Okay. we have several things in common. Same. So how did you get into fashion, luxury, design? Walk us through that journey.
Well, my mom's a seamstress. And so I grew up with sewing around me. One of her friends owned a wedding boutique shop, and we would go there every Saturday so she can hang out, and I would kind of sit under the table. They give kids stuff to be quiet, like go take this and go sit down and be quiet. They would give me a fabric book that had all of the different types of fabrics for wedding dresses. And I would sit in the corner and they'll give me a calligraphy set because they did calligraphy like invitations there. So I would sit there on a Saturday and practice my writing and touch the different fabrics and learn about textiles. And that started where it started. And when my mom realized I had an interest in it, she kind of used me for child labor and started. She had a very successful business, so she did a lot of wedding dresses and bridesmaids dresses, and she would torture me by making me sew all of the straight lines on all of the bridesmaids dresses. It was a lot, but it taught me the skills that I needed, that when I finally went to fashion school, it really wasn't about me learning the techniques, but more about me learning the business side.
Okay, I love that. So that was embedded from childhood. And then you said, okay, I'm going to go hone this skill. You went to fashion school in New York?
No, I actually went to fashion school here.
Oh, here in Nashville. Okay.
Yeah, I was inspired in New York. I went on a trip after my diagnosis with ovarian cancer. But after I was in remission, I went to Times Square to see the ball drop for New Year's. And as I was walking out past FIT, and I was like, I need to go here. I need to do something in fashion. But I worked here in Nashville. I've been in Nashville a few years at that point, and I found a school that was local. And so I just decided to go there.
Okay, I love that. I knew there was some New York inspiration in there. I love that. And so talk to us about what you get to do now.
Well, now I get to create from all different spectrums because besides my fashion background, I have a background in computer technology where I had a professor from Tulane actually come to my nonprofit that I founded with my ex-husband years ago. And he trained my staff of 6 people for 3 years so they can actually get certified in some Microsoft trainings and different things in computer technology. So my nonprofit was computer technology and helping kids receive computers in their homes and helping elderly kind of learn how to use a computer. It was a long time ago. But that along with my branding and working as a consultant and styling clients and marketing and interior design created a creative house that we focus on fashion, shoe, interior, different marketing and branding design, as well as consulting and immersive events. So it is a pretty long, but basically design, events, and consulting are the main things we focus on.
Yeah, and you have a book.
I do.
Called Soft Life. Talk to us about, before we get into the book, I feel like that phrase, I'm in my soft woman era, I want to live a soft life, right? Like it has been trending. When you hear that language, like what do you mean? When you say that, what do you mean? I know some people are referring to like having a man kind of take care of you and do different things for you. And there's some that can be a great aspect of it. But that's just a result of the training and operating in peace and joy and understanding yourself and finding your personality, your true personality, your authentic self, and starting to live from that place of feminine energy, because it's in all of us to create, to design. But as women, I feel like we get so boggled down with so many other things. We don't have the time to kind of cultivate that the way we cultivate everything else in life. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And I love that you said that, because there's so many women I know that listening to the show who want to lead just as authentically as they believe that they live. And sometimes when you cross over that, quote unquote threshold of whether it's walking into work or getting on calls or meetings with clients, sometimes people feel like they have to shed parts of who they are. But I love that you ground your sense of what it means to have a soft life, not just in having luxurious things, but in truly kind of knowing who you are. What was your journey of coming into that knowledge and wisdom of who you authentically are so that you can live from that place?
Well, first getting to the wrong place, and that was having all the material things that I wanted. I had my dream house. I got my dream car. I just got the title International Fashion Designer. So I had everything I had been working towards. And this was right around my 34th, 35th birthday. And I realized that I did not feel satisfied. Those things did not satisfy me the way I thought they should. And all the hard work that I put into didn't give me that gratification I was looking for. And in those moments, I realized I kept looking for things that was outside of myself. So I began to, I went from a maximalist, like rooms of clothes, real, closets before
like
it was Instagram
turn the
closets.
room into a closet.
Well, it was already, I got the place because it was a closet. Like the whole bedroom was already a closet. So like I said, way before everyone was really doing it as a trend. And I, again, because of my love for fashion, I collected all of these beautiful pieces, and I wanted to make sure I had all of these things, and I would research like certain shoes from this designer from this year. And so I was really into that. But even once I collected all those pieces and did all the things that I thought I wanted, it still was not enough. And so I began to shed a lot of the materialistic viewpoints that I had. And that came down from everything as far as clothes to the way I showed up in the world, relationships, and just really the way I treated myself. And that was part of the most important part of it.
What prompted that shedding for you?
I needed more. It's not that I wanted more. It was like wanting this, but settling for like this. And it's so much more, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh no, I should definitely have all of that. But this is really all that I want. All I really want is a peace of mind. All I really want to wake up happy next to someone that we may get into an argument tomorrow, but the next day we're loving each other and we're right back in that spot. Having my kids happy and thriving and not worrying about essentials. Like all of those different things really started to fuel me and make me look at myself. And then also I was having issues in relationships, and I was really struggling with connecting. And at that point I'd already went through a divorce. So I've been divorced maybe 3 or 4 years, and any relationship I got in was just toxic, just nothing good about it. And what I realized is that I was taking a lot of the energy, the fears that I had from my past relationship, and projecting that before I even started my new relationship. So now I'm expecting certain behaviors, and as I continue to expect it because other people aren't as observant of their behaviors when you're around a certain person, just like we use those things to lead. Like if I stand up, you may want to stand up. We lead people to begin to respond to us in a way that we're comfortable with. And so I had to unlearn all of that. And I had to shed a lot of ideas and thoughts that really didn't line up with the version of myself I wanted to be.
That is so powerful, because I think, gosh, sometimes it's something happens, right? There's like a disruptive moment or life experience that brings you to this realization that, wow, like this thing that I have been after, I don't really want it. Sometimes that could happen in your personal life, in your career. For me, it was like kind of like a mix of the two. For me, it was my mom dying and then going back into work in several areas of my life, but particularly professionally, going back to work. And I vividly remember the day standing at 234 East 42nd Street. That was Pfizer's old headquarters. They're now in Hudson Yards in New York. But I remember standing on our floor and having almost like this out-of-body experience that this, role and picture of who I would be at this organization, it almost like it detested me. Like, I'm like, I don't even want this anymore.
Yeah.
And like factoring in like all of the things that it took to get where I was and what it was going to take to get here. It's like incredible company, amazing people, brilliant work. I'm like, this is not it, you know? And so I always love hearing that, like what brings people to this point that you're like, there's this internal transformation that starts to bloom out of either just, disruption or just your own epiphany that what you thought you wanted maybe wasn't it.
Well, but I didn't say that 3 years earlier than that, I hinted to it. I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer and kind of given 6 months to live. They gave my job a due date on my insurance, and like there was no faith in everything I was going through, because I had so much stress. And my father actually passed away a year to the date when I went in for my first testing. So at that point is when I started making changes on like the outside. Like I got to change the way I eat. I got to change the way I show up. I got to make sure I'm in environments that's not as stressful. So I had already started part of that journey. So then I had already learned manifestation. I was manifesting the things that I wanted, but I didn't understand how to cultivate those inner desires that I needed, if that makes sense.
It does. Was there anything that helped you in that journey, right? As far as like, resources like therapy or journaling, or like what were some of the practical things that you leaned into that helped you?
Therapy definitely helped with that. Also, a lot, my faith. I actually really started tuning in to spending more time with God, meditating, and finding ways to cultivate, those safe space. But I will say my faith played a huge role in it, because that was sort of like the foundation that gave me the base to be able to start building on other things that worked best for me.
Absolutely. And how did people, I guess, in your community or around you respond to the shift? Because you mentioned like you started shifting externally, you're changing internally, especially the internal shifts, like people don't see those, but they experience them through how you're responding. Like, what did that look like relationally?
Like I was crazy. And it's crazy too, because when you start on the inner journey, you feel like, oh yeah, no, people can't really see, but no, they can. And they can see by the way you're responding. They can see by your faces that you make compared to it. They'll be like, what's wrong with you? What's going on with you? You're like, nothing, I'm fine, I'm happy. That can be confusing if they're used to seeing you in a different state. So it was hard for the people around me, because I have an idea of who I want to be, but that person hasn't been created yet. So there's no visual idea or understanding of who this person is supposed to be for other people. So they're just part of the journey. And I think one of the parts of I try to talk with my people when I talk about the soft life is that even if you're in relationships in the moment, you have to be patient with your partner, because they're not used to you. They don't know who you are. Let's be honest. They met a completely different person. And now that you're making these changes and making these adjustments, they don't know how to respond. So it's almost like you're teaching them how to be with a new person. So it's a completely different thing, a completely different idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate to that so much. I think we're going to title this with redefining the soft life, because that is what you're doing. I think, in terms of how people, like what people associate with those words, I think it's very different from this conversation, because we're talking about like the deep work of being renewed by the transforming of your mind, like the deep work of like healing, like the deep work in real time as you're still processing and growing and, which is not like, oh, espresso martini at the spa. It's like a very different picture of what people think about when they think of having a soft life.
Absolutely. And I do play off of that, because what actually started our journey, me and my sister, was we took a girls trip and we met some other women that were like, the way y'all move and y'all laugh and y'all joke, like where does that kind of come from? And we had to think about it. And it's really because of our upbringing, and our dad would sit us down every Wednesday and he would go over like the life of Christ, the characteristics, karma, like if you do something bad gonna happen to you, and nothing is done in the dark, like really explaining these concepts to us so that we would build more character. And I think when you have your character built to a certain level to sustain the type of life you want, life feels easy. But when you don't, because you can fake the funk, people do that every day. So when you don't have your character built to that, life feels hard and you're in constant survival. And so it's just an ideal of building your character up to the person you want to be, so it takes you out of that survival place and puts you back in the creator.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, I might as well sit this down, because this ain't nothing. Everything else I want to ask you ain't got Yeah, no, we're gonna get back to the style stuff. We coming back to the style and the fashion. So one question that I have, because I think so many struggle with like, how do I know the life that I want to live, particularly when we in today's time are bombarded with images of what and who we should be. Like, what was the journey of you for like seeing, knowing, believing like, no, this is who I want to become?
Well, that has also evolved because we can only grow or see ourselves to the edge of our fear. So like, a person may want to be like a millionaire, and they may say, yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire. But a little bit over 120 may scare you, because now how do I pay taxes? How is this going to, and what you're actually doing is you're putting a ceiling, and you're, instead of allowing yourself to continue down that journey. So when you place that ceiling there, you're not only cutting off your ability to make the money, but your resources to make the money, which is you. You're cutting off your discipline. You're cutting off the way you carry yourself, how you feel comfortable in certain rooms, because you have to have a certain level of confidence for each room that you elevate to. So when you put that fear level up, you're stopping yourself from reaching that goal. And we do that in everything. We do it in relationships. We do it in work. We do it with money. We do it with our creativity. We do it with our friends. So it's just an idea of removing that fear level, or understanding where you stand with that. So you can each up a little bit. I mean, we can't just all jump to a different status, but it's little things we can do to build ourselves up.
Yeah, that is so powerful. You mentioned relationships, and I know we have a lot of women that listen into the show, and you know, I believe that so much, if not all, of what happens in our professional life stems from what's going on personally. So you mentioned marriage dissolution, you mentioned dating afterwards, and then getting to the point where you're like, okay, these relationships might be kind of toxic. Like, what was the trigger for you that said, okay, baby, I need to go about this differently? And how did you hold on to the hope, because you're married now?
I am married about 2 months now.
yes. Newlyweds, to, you know, live and step into this era of your soft life again.
Yeah, well, I would say you can go on a number of bad dates, right? You're like, and you can laugh about it to your girlfriends, and it's cute and all of that. But you'll get that one too many. And one too many, actually, you'll become celibate, or you'll say, I'm just not dealing with men for a minute. Like, we'll have those moments as women. But I think it was one too many. And I was like, I'd been married before for 10 years. Didn't have a lot of issues within our marriage, just a lot of outside influences, because we did a lot in the community. And so I knew that feeling of feeling comfortable at home and with the kids, and, you know, just watching TV. Like, I knew that feeling. And I was like, I can't get there the way I'm moving right now. I just can't. Although I created a great life for me, it wasn't the life I desired. So, and I feel like I have different phases, because when I was coming out that marriage, I wanted that life. I wanted it.
Specifically speaking, like
the first
experiencing
the experience of being able to buy whatever I want, fly wherever I want, go out with my girlfriends and have a good time, walk in a designer store and say, just bag it. I needed that experience because I needed to prove it to myself. But then I did that. So now what? So now let's just get what we want. You know, I proved to myself what I'm worth. I know how to love myself. We can get what we want. We can have the balance now.
Yeah. I love that. You can have what you want. Absolutely. I believe that too. I have, you mentioned girlfriends and dating and funny stories. Yes. And because we have similar stories relative to, you know, a love for a decade, 2 decades, you know, in terms of my experience, 10 years married, and then, you know, 10 years essentially of dating. So stepping into a new season has been like, okay, there are apps for dating. Okay, wait, you know, it's like, hold on. Like, I'm feeling very like elementary school, maybe middle in this area, because what are we doing? But also like, I know what I want. So at the same time, you're like, okay, you know, if you're very clear on the path and how you see yourself and your life and being married and having children, it's like, okay, you got to make decisions that are in alignment with that future you.
Absolutely. You have to be intentional. And I think the biggest part of that is just when we say, oh, you have to become that person. The reason why you're becoming that person is because if you want a man that makes over 6 figures and you want to hang out at certain clubs that you're comfortable with, that you hung out when you were 19, 20, he not there. So you have to go, you have to be more comfortable in those atmospheres where you're sitting at the hotel lobby of a nice hotel, you know, at the bar, you know, having a drink, or you're going to a very nice exclusive cigar lounge, or you're in these places because you feel comfortable in these places. Of course, you're naturally attracting the type of person you want, because you also have to think about, what does that man really look like in that tax bracket? What does he really do? You know, and that's just from a materialistic standpoint. My thing was, I wanted a man that was kind, that respected what I was doing in the community and how the differences I wanted to make, and was understanding, because we're not gonna always be on the same page, but was understanding on my side as well as I could be understanding on his side, and we put each other first. Those are my criterias. Everything else can be built up. But again, that's after I dated the guy that looked like, you know, something that was on a poster board, and I was with the person that had a lot of money. So I did all of those different things, because I can't tell anyone, oh, you should not want that, or you shouldn't want to do it. But in every situation, that wasn't what I needed at the end of the day. And it was always something that was like, this is off. So I had to really start digging deep and seeing what is really important to me. And finding that space is hard in the beginning. And most people need to start, or should start, by just identifying like key areas they loved when they were kids. Like, what were some things you really love to do? Things you know, places you love to go. Go back to those memories. If you can visit those places, and let the creativity that's within us, really is also feminine energy, begin to curate and find things. And before you know it, it's going to start being certain things you identify with, and you're beginning to find your path.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that applies to relationships. It applies to career. It applies to business for sure. And belief, I will say. Because I'm like very clear with when I'm having those, you know, group chat conversations or group FaceTime conversations with my girlfriends. I'm like, I'm unmarried right now, but I'm a wife. So I am like very clear. I don't bring me none of them stats. Like, don't bring me, I don't want to hear none of that. That's for everybody else. It is one man. So like, and I know there's one, and I know he's out there. So I'm like, listen, I think a big part of it too, and you mentioned manifesting. So similar thing, but it's like, you have to have a level of belief about what you've seen and what you desire. And I believe that that's a big part of stepping into your soft life.
But you already have an advantage that a lot of women don't have. By being married before, it's not a thing that seems unattainable to you because you've been married before. And I think I could speak from my space. My husband tells the story. He tells the story all the time. On our first date, he was like, really feeling himself, and he was like, oh yeah, because I know there's not a lot of men in this area, you know, do what we do, so I know, you know, you're comfortable being out on a date like this. And I was like, there's not a lot of men. He was like, yeah. I was like, oh, I don't have any problem finding men. Like, men want to take me on dates, men want to hang out with me, I'm fine with that. And the look he gave me, and he didn't say anything for the first couple of weeks. But soon we were watching TV, he was like, you know, when you told me.
That is hilarious to me. That kindred, I'm just going to say same, because, but I believe that. So I'm like,
that's the thing.
So to me, sometimes I feel like I'm having cognitive dissonance in conversations, because I'm like, girl, that hadn't been my experience. Now, granted, you know, I'm not saying I'm on a date every day, but like, as often as I would like to be.
Yeah.
And these are good men. So like, even when people say stuff like that, like, there aren't any good men, I'm like, wait a minute, stop, pause. There are very good men.
There's some great men. Great
men of faith, men, attractive men, tall men, short men, skinny men. Like, that's just not true.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it does have to do with like your with everything else, your perspective, your belief, like that level of expectancy, like truly is what you see and perceive, and it's what you end up experiencing.
And what you see is the main thing. When you're not mentally in focus with the things you really need, a guy could be right in front of your face. You will not see him. And he could be doing all the right things, but your focus, you're so distracted on something else, you're missing it, and you're then somebody's praying like, oh God, why I didn't have that man yet? Girl, he right there. He right there, but you can't see him.
Literally.
And once you can take that little step up and take the blinders off, you can see what's right in front of you. So
listen, we gotta help the people. Okay, we're gonna let y'all back into the conversation because like we were in our own, y'all were kind of eavesdropping on our conversation for a minute. So I love that. So you are transforming your life. You are an international fashion designer. Talk to us a little bit about like the importance of style, especially for leaders, like when you walk into a room.
Well, I learned that early on because one of the reasons why I started dressing myself and I started in high school is because I realized that if you dress a certain way, you don't have to speak. And I was an introvert. So it's a lot easier for me to dress the way I wanted to be and the way I wanted people to perceive me. And then they would perceive me that way. And starting to do that around 15, 16, making my own clothes, was a great experience. I won, like, I brag about this like it's a real thing. I won best dress junior and senior year high school.
Back to back. Okay, back to back. Best dress. Okay,
Back
2
to
years
back.
in a row.
Back to back. Oh, and I created the homecoming squad, like our dress for everyone that was on the homecoming court.
Come on,
Did that.
designer.
Did that. And somebody bought my prom dress as a wedding dress a year later.
Wow.
But I say all that to say
Receipts. She said all that to say receipts. Okay.
receipts. But I really started changing. I really started like dressing the way I wanted people to see me. And I think that's so important, especially in leadership, that however you want people to see you, when you walk in the room, they start feeling that energy and picking up that perception of you first. So a lot of times when we have brands or we are doing marketing, we think about the brand, like how it shows up, but we don't think about ourselves. And we live in a new relationship craving era of social media where people don't believe brands. They don't believe the marketing, the large influencer. They're looking for leaders to believe in. And so every single part of your business has to feel like you're delivering that.
So what is that? How does that show up for you, like practically? Like, are you thinking about what you're gonna wear, for the week at the beginning of the week? Like I know people who have like a little, like obviously you have your closet, but then have like a little like clothing rack, and they'll like, okay, I got these meetings today. Like, let me like lay this out. Of course, they're the people that are like, hey, I have a uniform. I am in decision fatigue. I don't want to have to think about it. I wear black every day.
Yeah.
How do you approach how you're showing up?
Well, I'm about to tell my age, but I've been doing this for over 20 years. So I organize and pull from that. I don't pick out my clothes. Bad to say, most of the time I pick out my clothes right before I walk out the door, and I just go pick things out. But I've organized myself to the point where my closet's color coded. I know I switch my stuff out seasonally, so I know exactly what I can just grab. I've basically touched everything because I've had to pull it off the hanger, put something else there. So I physically understand where these things are. And I've also, I've put them into categories. So pants, skirts, and then also color coded it. So it's a lot easier for me to just pull. So I can just walk in my closet and pull a look and look like it took me a long time to put it together when it took me 15 minutes. And I like to help my clients also create that type of vibe and do mood boards with them so that they can also get used to just pulling. Because you shouldn't have to like put that much planning into your everyday looks if your closet is filled with the type of things you like. So you gotta get a lot of stuff out. But once you do it right, it's a lot easier.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about what that process looks like when you're working with clients, like on their style, how they're showing up, their fashion, especially if they're in a season of like reinvention.
Well, it depends. If I'm just doing personal styling for like events or more in a creative direction, if it's like a artist, then we focus more on what we want the music to, like what we want that music to portray and how we want to show up and what does that define them as an artist. So it's more of like a character compared to if I'm working with a leader or someone, an entrepreneur on a different level, we create how the personal look ties into the brand. Because now you're not only just representing yourself, you're representing a whole legacy of things that you're creating with your business. So it's a little bit different, the process on that side, where we go through the closet and then we begin to look at style options, because everybody doesn't want to look the same. We identify personality traits that would lead them, if they don't know what their style is, lead them to feel more comfortable in the way they look. Because if you're dressing on the opposite side of your personality, then you're creating uncomfort before you even start. So you're taking away some of your confidence immediately. So working on a lot of things from that way, and then having a style day, doing mood boards, and having like the full conversation of we're creating this together, we're creating this look for you together, instead of I'm just gonna pull you some clothes and you tell me what you like. No, this because it's got an ongoing journey, and you have to start the process and continue that process, for many years to come.
So I want to ask you this because actually my very first business before I started Career Thrivers, I had an image consulting business called Style by Britt. I did personal styling and image consulting. I thought for women, and then it ended up being for leaders. So that's actually how I got into the career space, because it ended up being primarily women and a few smart men that were either getting promoted, wanted to get promoted, and needed their closet to match where they were going. One of the things I ran into, then I went kind of down the political path for a little bit, which was actually kind of fun, dressing candidates and stuff, for mayoral races. I had a couple of those, but just for, their political campaigns. But it's cost, right? So for the leader that says, hey, look, I know my style could be better. I'm going to allocate a budget to maybe refresh my wardrobe. But if they wanted to bring in someone like you, someone to like help them through their journey, how would you advise them to think about a budget for something like that?
It actually depends on their goals, and are they doing this like a reset for the season, or if they're completely gutting everything and starting from scratch. I think that as far as the budget on the smaller scale, some people can start with $50 every 2 weeks, or $100 so they can start putting that money aside. I normally suggest, if they want to get everything at once and the process to start about 6 months out, it may get you up to like $500 to $1,000, but that's a great starting point if you're doing the smaller side. I would say on the larger side, depending on your aesthetic. If you have a very clean girl, quiet luxury aesthetic, then you need to plan for at least a $5,000, dollar thing to at least start with your basics. And then if you're more on a maximalist, earthier tone, and you feel like you really are not looking to be as corporate and high end, but you want to have comfort and look good at the same time, I would say somewhere about $2,500 to get started, because there's a lot of things that you can do and mix and match and thrift. And I love to thrift and have all these different elements, that brings in your personality.
Okay. So it sounds like we can at least get started with like revamping a closet or shopping a closet for hundreds to mid-thousands, which, okay, I love that. Yeah, I think for a lot of leaders, especially, I'm sure you run into this too, like women who are transitioning in terms of sizes for whatever reason, like that comes up a lot. And then also just the kind of general kind of closet refresh.
Yeah. And I normally say for people who just want to just see what they can do with what they have at home. It was a book that came out a while back about keeping things that bring joy. I don't know why I can't remember the name of the lady that did it. They also had a Netflix show. But go through at least that season if you're not ready to go through the full closet, because a lot of us have a few.
Yeah.
But go through that one season and keep the things that make you feel good. Like identify how these items make you feel, because what's also happening is however you feel in that item, you're giving that feeling, you're projecting that feeling to other people. So if you feel confident, they'll feel your confidence when you walk in the room. If you feel insecure, they can feel that as well. So going through your items and keeping the things that actually bring you joy is a great way to just start the process. And then you can start filling in the gaps and the holes and seeing what's missing based off of what you want. And if, I definitely go through a full process of helping people recognize their style. But if you're struggling with just not knowing where to start, use ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT, okay, I like this, and say crazy stuff, like not crazy, but say like I like flowers, I like roses, I like lavender, I like anything that you like. Say all of those things, because your style is a representation of your personality, and so if you feed Chat all that information, it will help you start building your aesthetic. And it can kind of at least identify something that's close, so you can start building off of that and build a Pinterest board and kind of go from there.
What would you say to the person that feels like all of this is super surface? They're like, clothes and shopping, and I'm just focused on the work. I'm not worried about all this fashion stuff.
Well, there's a scene in The Devil Wears Prada that I'm not going to show how that's part of my lifestyle. But there's a scene when Miranda is explaining to Andy why she has on a blue sweater. And if you get a chance to look at that movie, I would say definitely look at that part. We feel like it's not important as a rebellion to ourselves and to society. But the reality is you're being received a certain way when you walk in every room. But you can, with style and fashion, you have the right to tell people what to expect. Now you're taking that identity back, and you're putting yourself in a place where I'm gonna define what I look like and how I show up in this room.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned being an introvert, because that is literally it is a strategy particularly for people that are like, oh my gosh, I can't stand the networking events, or I time myself. If it's 30 minutes networking, I'm gonna get there at the 20-minute mark. That way I only got to network for 10 minutes before the event starts.
I've done that.
Yeah. I'm speaking from former personal experience. There are all kinds of strategies, but what I found to be the best strategy is to become the magnet in the room.
Absolutely.
And your fashion sense can draw, even if it's just, a conversation starter, a nice brooch or necklace, if you're into jewelry, or a bright color.
Yeah.
But having that level of intention to where people walk up to you and start a conversation before you even start talking, it can be a great icebreaker. It's
great, but there's also two sides of it, because on the flip side, you can attract, anything that's great is going to also attract something that's, not as great. So there may be some people who feel intimidated being authentic to yourself. But the reality is that's really not your issue.
Right.
And you can't take on, and I'm the type of person that I would take on full responsibility of someone not feeling well in a space because of my upbringing and the way I like to help people. But that was something I also had to recognize, not to fall in the trap of trying to protect other people from their own emotions. And that's when you shrink yourself. That's when you walk in the room and you feel comfortable, but someone may say something that's kind of out of pocket, and then you're like, oh, let me just kind of sit in the back. Let me cover up this stress, and you start to become more self-conscious. So I think that's another side just to be mindful of.
Yeah. Definitely. What would you say to someone who is wanting to pivot their style? What's a good place to start when it comes to that?
Your basics. And if it's on a professional level, because I know that's most of your listeners, so on a professional level, I used to work with clients, leaders, and use two different theories, a black girl and a blue girl. And a black girl is very classic. She loves classic tones. That's kind of where she represents herself best. And then we have a blue girl who's a little bit more eclectic and loves to have something a little quirky. Yeah, I don't know why my voice is I'm tongue tied today, but a little quirky and cute, but they still want to look professional. So I would separate and kind of ask people what's the first thing that come to mind. Are you a blue girl or a black girl? What would you say?
I'm blue black. No, I'm definitely blue.
You're definitely blue. And so that would be where we start. So when you're looking for solid pieces, instead of going for the little black dress, go for something that has the same fit. It's fitted, it has great fabric, but it can be blue. It can have stripes. It could be black and white. It can be red, but you can go with something a little bit more color. Where I would say a classic person, definitely go for the black dress. If you want to go for the white because it's so classy right now, or something in a neutral tone, like a beige or a gold, because that's where you're going to feel most comfortable. So starting at what type of woman you are or what type of person you are is probably the best place. And then you can kind of like branch out from there.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And it brings me back to our earlier conversation about knowing yourself, because there's also a side of style that can sometimes be conditioned based on your environment. So like for me, before I started Career Thrivers, spending 12 years at Pfizer, it was a suit every day.
Yeah.
So it's like, do I really like suits, or did I just have to wear suits for 12 years, Monday through Friday and probably on Sunday too for church? So then it's like, but I'm like, as an entrepreneur, I really love athleisure. I really love, Adidas is one of my favorite athleisure brands. So while yes, I do enjoy heels and dressing up, it's like, I also enjoy like tennis shoes or flats, or like, putting on a pair of tennis shoes with a really cute suit, or putting on a really cute athletic, jacket with a pair of slacks, or, a pencil skirt, kind of mixing those things together. So I think also like giving yourself the space to try new things.
Absolutely.
Because your blue or black style, it could be like, you're evolving. You're like, well, I used to be black, but let me try a little bit of this blue over here. Give me a little sparkle. Give me a little mixed print. We love it. We love it.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And I think that's also just how you begin to build upon it, because like you said, you realized what that extra thing was. And so you added that element in. And when you're adding in an element to, especially if you're in a corporate environment, one or two pieces. Start with one or two pieces. Get more comfortable before you add more. But I always say 1, 2, 3 if you need, but one or two pieces of like your personal style in a corporate setting will make you feel like you're still representing yourself or showing up as yourself, and you're, able to kind of be a part of everything else that's going on around you.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't just get up and throw it on. I just threw this on. We're like, girl, we know. It's giving. I just threw this on. That's what it's giving. So let's be intentional. You don't have
Absolutely.
to break the bank. But I do think there's a level of, that's actually outside of just my love for fashion, like part of what took me into image consulting, because I was like, man, I just want to help women because it's exactly what you said. There's an energy that comes with you. Let me say it how we say it. When you look good, you feel good. Okay?
Exactly.
That's the bottom line, right?
Yes.
But it's like that internal knowing of like, okay, I feel confident in this. And like it shows up in how you communicate, how you connect with people. So just wanting women especially, to have that level of confidence of like, okay, this fits me.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about fit, because I think if I had to choose between brand, between trend, between fit takes the cake.
Yeah.
Every day of the week.
And it should, because you can wear like something that's really elegant and beautiful, and if it fits badly, it takes away, from that. And then you can also wear something that's like a t-shirt and a nice pair and some jeans, but they're tailored to you, so it hits in all the right places. And I know as we get to fine wine ages, I
love that. I hadn't heard that one yet. Fine wine ages. Okay, I'm gonna have to use that. That's good.
But yeah, as we begin to go into those areas of our life or new eras, we want to cling on to what our body looked like 10 years ago. Like, because, the way I was shaped 10 years ago, it was this. And that was beautiful for that version of you 10 years ago. And don't get me, I'm not knocking anyone that goes in, prepares themselves and gets, builds themselves to the place they feel more confident with through surgeries or anything else. But if you're like going through this journey and you still have, the things, and you're just aging, beautifully, it's okay to start changing the way your core style is based off the way your body has changed. So our core style, we learn it like 14, 15. We don't even think about it. And we mentally remember, if you deal with the male gaze, when guys responded to you a certain way, and you remember when your friends loved the outfit. And so you begin to create silhouettes. Like, you may have more wide leg pants in your closet because you kind of remember when people tell you look good in these things. You may have more skinny jeans, or you may have more t-shirts. All of these things are kind of based off of that life you created when you were younger. So when you get older, you're not looking for those same responses, nor are you naive enough to think that that's important. So now you're creating something new. And in creating something new, you have to start looking at different patterns that will best elevate your look. I know if like some people struggle with things with their core, now you have to focus on creating a waist. Like if the core is the issue and everything else is fine, you have to create that hourglass, that 8, infinity 8 shape. So some way, shape, or form, you need to either wear more like belts, larger belts, do things that kind of stop at your waistline, like jackets. Athleisure wear is great to kind of bring that extra element, but also still shape your body. And then also block dressing is a great thing. Monochromatic is going to keep you slim no matter what you do. You see, I will throw that on in a second. But when you're thinking about what I need to do in order to look well proportioned, lighter colors at the top, darker colors at the bottom, blocks of strong, rich colors, not like a lavender skirt and a darker purple top. You can do it, but it's going to look off balance. Kind of keep at least the darker, richer tones at the bottom. But look for tones, especially as we become who we are now and refined, and we have better taste. Look for better quality fabrics, because they're going to show up on your skin in a better way. It actually brings youth. The richer fabrics bring youth to your skin and to your face and your tone, your skin tone. So it's those little tricks that we can do to kind of make things a little bit easier.
I love that. Okay, y'all. I hope y'all were taking notes. Okay, listen, y'all. You gonna have people going back through their closet like, okay, let me get my rich tones over here. Let me make sure I got my quality fabrics here. I'm gonna leave my definitely color code that closet.
Yes, definitely do that. That's the first step.
It makes a really big difference. Any thing that you're looking forward to as you think about your leadership journey and what's next, what your future holds that you're excited about?
Well, yeah, one of my main things is my fashion club, working with different schools to bring more fashion education and a luxury idea to high schoolers, and actually become sort of a resource for them to prepare to go to college and beyond in the fashion community. Very excited about that. Have a new school, which is James Lawson. So I'm going to be working with them.
Congrats.
So yeah, really excited for that. And then also I'll be doing speaking engagement in Dubai.
Congrats.
Thank you.
That's exciting.
You. So with marketing and branding, and building my consultant side of my business back up, because that's sort of been my focus for the past couple of years. It is part of, like, I will say, more of like the bread and butter side of it, but also I help people the most. And so I feel more fulfilled as a person, because as I went back in the beginning of the story and I did all the fashion stuff that I could do, I was still missing an element. So doing that consulting part, and then also the events that I host, Luxury with Friends, and bringing people together and them getting excited and meeting new people and feeling like they have community, is also the continuous collaborations that I have from luxury companies like Rick St. Laurent and Bell Harbor, and I recently did one with West Elm. Using those corporations to help build luxury ideas and experiences for us as women, I think also brings me as much joy as being able to sew a dress. Yeah. So I had to kind of balance all of those things out, and I'm very happy with the results.
Well, I definitely hope that you keep it up. I had a ball at West Elm. So yes, I am touching and agreeing on more brands, more luxury experiences for us. It was a really, really beautiful evening. So thank you for doing that. So you've had so much transition, but also like so much beauty and transformation in your soft life era, from your diagnosis that you shared to your transformation to always having this through line of fashion and sewing, and then being able to work in the fashion industry, being able to design and be a designer, and also to work with brands. What is something that yourself today, the woman that you are today, the Zen that you are today, what's something that you would go back knowing what you know, that you would tell yourself maybe 20 years ago when you were starting, that would have helped her then?
I probably would have said, don't worry, we need this. I got married out of fear of being alone. I loved my family unit, and I didn't want to go off to college and just be by myself. And then also I had some things that I wanted to do. I wanted to go to a different school than what my parents wanted me to go to. It was a lot of different factors, but I just didn't want to walk away from that environment and be alone. And so because of that, I married someone that was my friend, but we really didn't cultivate that life for us to be where we were, to get married. But we're young. We didn't know. We just, love is love. You know, we just getting in love. We just in love, girl. We don't know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy. But, you know, when I was coming out of that situation and beginning to find my own after 10 years of being married, I was afraid that everything was going to fall apart and I wasn't going to be able to live up to the expectations that people have for me. And so I would just tell my younger self, like, don't worry, like, we need this. You got this. It's been in you the whole time. You're not going to become somebody new. You're already this person. We just got to get rid of all the voices and the noise and everything that other people have tried to tell us about ourselves, because it's not true. Yeah. We know who we are. And I guess that's it.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I love episodes like this because, y'all, believe it or not, Zen and I met like a week ago. Yeah. And it was literally one of those moments where, you know how like you're talking to somebody, but like God is talking to you, and then you talking back to God, but like you also are actually talking to the person that you're talking to. And it was like, invite her on the podcast. I'm like, I just met this woman. I don't even know this woman. Like, and I came to the event kind of late, so I didn't like hear all of her story. Like, I don't know, is this even gonna? But it's like, invite her to the podcast. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna invite her. And then you said yes, and I'm like, okay. And then like we talked a little bit more. Then I came to the event and learned a little bit more. But like, so I honestly was showing up today like, I'm learning about you and your story, like literally in real time. Like, this is not like prepped questions. So I'm like, the little stuff I had was about style and fashion. And, you know, like we done talked about some of everything, but I feel like it has been so beautiful, so timely. And I know folks that are watching, or if you're listening in to the podcast, are going to feel the same way, because you shared so much about truly redefining what it means to live a soft life. Like, what I'm walking away with is like, knowing who you are and living from this place of alignment that allows you to truly live free without feeling like you need something additional to live at that place. I think so often we hear living in true freedom associated with an expansive amount of financial wealth. And it's not that aspiring to that is bad, but I also believe that like we have been made free, and we can live free, absolutely, with or without the commas and the zeros. And so thank you Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
with us and for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Awesome. And how can we stay connected with you?
Well, you can go to my website. It's long. It's ZintriseAltovise.com. So it's ZintriseAltovise.com. Also, you can connect with me on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Soft Life Zen, a little bit easier. But then also LinkedIn, Zintrise Altovise, as well as my YouTube channel.
Awesome. Well, we will make sure all of that is in the show notes of this episode. And again, thank you for being on the show. And until next time, keep leading and keep thriving. If I asked you right now, on a scale from 1 to 10, how strong is your leadership brand? Most people would just guess, but you don't have to. We've created the Leadership Brand Assessment to give you an actual score on where you stand, your impact, your visibility, and the gap between those two. Because that gap, the distance between what you've built and what the world actually sees, that's where your influence is hiding. And that's where your income is hiding too. That's where your next opportunity is waiting. And it only takes 3 minutes. It's absolutely free, and it'll tell you exactly where to focus next. So take the assessment now at scoremyleadershipbrand.com. You're listening in to the Let's Thrive Together podcast powered by Career Thrivers. Career Thrivers is a workforce development and leadership branding firm where we work directly with organizations, helping you with your organizational development strategy, but also your learning and development as you are building your next level leaders. If you are looking to retain top talent, inspire your leaders, or cultivate the leadership brands as executives within your organization, then make sure you head on over to careerthrivers.com to learn more about how you can work with us.